Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. In this week's video, we are going to take a look at the Novation Bass Station 2. Now this synth has been out for a while, but it's the first time that I have gotten my hands on it thanks to one of the buddies I work with. Full disclosure, I work for Novation. So I've had limited hands-on when it comes to just like day-to-day, but I really wanted to get in and do some sound design. So in this week's video, we're going to do 5 patches on the bass station, and they sound like this. Okay, let's get into it. So first up, we are going to make a bass patch. It's going to be super simple. It's going to be Reese inspired, but obviously we don't have all of the bells and whistles on here. So we are going to do what we can and just make a really solid bass sound. So first up, obviously we are going to want to just go to a initialize patch. Super simple there. So for this one, we're going to use the 3 oscillators. So for oscillator 1, you can see here, we just have this little switch here. We're going to go to oscillator 1 and we're going to tune that down to 16 feet. And we've already got it set to sawtooth. Oscillator 2, bang, over to oscillator 2, and we're going to do the same. So we're going to go to 16 feet. And then we're going to come across to the sub. We're going to make sure that's set to -1. You can do that. And we have a nice little fancy picture of a submarine on there. And then we're going to keep that as a sine wave. And then from there, so the sound is generated here and we move on to the mixer section. So for the mixer section, we are going to go, oscillator 1 is going to be at about 60%. Now I know we got the numbers over here, but I'm just kind of going off up and down is 50, and maybe a little bit more than that. And then oscillator 2, we're going to go to about the same 60%. And then for the sub, we're going to go to like 50, 60%. Maybe a bit less. Maybe 45. Now, this sounds pretty good, but one thing that we can do to kind of really thicken that sound up is use the fine tune on oscillator 2. So that will kind of detune the 2 oscillators and then give us a little bit more rich of a sound. So we're already selected on oscillator 2 here. Let's come along to fine. We're already, that's 0 there. And you can hear there, as we start to increase that amount of fine, that's when we get the musical beats. Same as when you tune your guitar and the notes are almost in tune, and then as you get them right in tune, you'll start to hear the beats will go further apart, and then you just kind of won't hear them. If we go obviously the other way, it gets crazier and crazier until it goes all the way around and gets back in tune again. So let's go about 18 there. Back on the mix section, as we come across, we could even add, let's just add a little bit of white noise. Just a hair. You can see we got 10 on the number there. Just add a little bit more grit to the overall patch. From here, the sound goes from the mixer into the filter section. And then in the filter section, we have the option of 2 filter types. We got the acid and the classic. I personally like the classic a little bit more. And then let's go over and start to look at the the mod envelopes and the resonance, and obviously the big one on the side there, we got the filter. So let's pull the filter all the way down. And then let's look at the mod envelope. So that is effectively going to be, we're going to set it to amp and mod. So that's going to be the volume of the synth in the amp, and then the mod is going to be the modulation for the filter. So it's going to be this filter here, this envelope rather, is going to affect this filter. So let's come along, we'll start it. We've got nothing. We'll go decay up to about 50. We want sustain. We want that note to be on all the time when we hold it. And then release, we'll go about 50. And then for the mod envelope depth, we're going to go about sort of 3/4 of the way around. Up and down for this one, as you can see here, we got 0. So that's going to be no input. But then as we come along, go. And then for the filter, we can keep that down. And then we can increase the glide to about 50%. Let's go down 1 octave. You can hear the beats there. Let's put a little bit of resonance on there. And then we can add a little bit of overdrive to kind of give it a little bit more oomph there. And then we can look at the final effects here. We can add some distortion in. So there you go. There's a super simple bass. Kind of stepping away from doing the usual sort of deep house bass that I normally do, but I find that this one has a lot of character. And then obviously you can come along and adjust the envelope here. We could even turn on the ARP. And then get that cool synthwave bass going by just pulling down the sustain, chucking a little ARP on there, and away you go. So obviously we're going to crack on with the lead, and let's go and get a initialized patch. Super simple. And for this one, I think we're going to make a sort of a haunted organy style lead. So for oscillator 1, we're going to go with a, we're going to go click over to 1, we're going to go 4 feet, and we're going to go with a sine. Oscillator 2 is going to be, we'll cruise over here, we're going to go to 2 feet, and we're going to go with a sine again. Actually, we want this to be a little gritty. Let's go with the saw. And then the sub is going to be -1. So we've done the sounds here. Let's go over to the mixing section now. So for the mix, we'll go oscillator 1 full, oscillator 2 to like 25%. We can hear that in there now, so without. And then the sub is going to be the same, about 25%. And let's go with a bit of white noise as well. We're just going to go 6. That's. If I pull these down, you can hear that white noise in there. just adds a little bit more grit to the overall sound. Now that we've done the mixer, so we've done the volumes, we're going to go into the filter, and then for the filter type, we're going to go with a bandpass. You can kind of hear it going on there. It's very, very low though. We can go filter 15, and now let's start to add the envelope depth and whatnot to kind of, so we can hear the sound, because at the moment it's not really rocking. So let's go the mod envelope depth. We're going to go about 28, maybe 30. Bring all the values down. We're going to go again with the amp and mod for the envelope. We'll go attack to 0. Decay is going to be about 45%. Sustain all the way, and release is going to be about 50. So it's all right. It's a little haunted sort of thing, but we can do more to this. So let's look at adding the LFO2. We're going to do it so it's going to add some vibrato. So by that I mean we're going to have a delay with that coming on, and then we're going to start to be able to hear it. So this is the LFO2 here, and if we increase the amount, so let's go with about 60. And now if I play it, straight away, you can hear that sound. So we don't want it to come on straight away. We want it to have that delay, like I said. So we're going to flick over to delay. And then for this one, we're going to increase this. And you can hear it comes on in the end. So about there is fine. And then for the speed, we want it like if you were to like do a string bends and stuff like that. So and you can hear that delay, and then the LFO comes in. Obviously we can start to add some other bits and pieces, like let's add a little bit of overdrive. And then just a hair of distortion at the end as well. Maybe a little bit more resonance. I think it's good. I think we've got sort of something in the ballpark. If I was to come along and put a nice little reverb on top of it, just got the built-in Logic. I think the reverb really adds a lot to it, and it makes a really good lead. Next up, we are going to make a nice meaty kick drum. And for this, obviously, we're going to start by initializing the patch. But we're going to use none of the oscillators. So no sound going on. We're just going to use the resonance to feed into the frequency, the low pass. And we're going to kind of shape it that way using the envelope here. So let's increase the resonance all the way up, and you can already hear. And as I open the filter, we kind of get this vibe. So let's come along, and we're going to got the mod envelope for this. So let's pull all these down. let's go about 17, 18 on the figure over here. So, and then let's shape the envelope. So about 25%, maybe 30% on the decay. And I'm just sort of playing around with the amount of envelope depth and the frequency, like how open the filter is for the frequency, the low pass. Obviously, the more closed the low pass filter is, the sort of the more the lower the kick is going to be frequency wise. And then if we add a little bit more mod envelope, sort of getting that like little bit of a gabba kick there. Just take away some of that sustain. Maybe bring out the decay and the release. Nice sort of clicky kick there. Obviously, because we haven't used any of the oscillators and we don't have any volume going into it, no amount, the overdrive doesn't do anything to the overall sound there. So we can still use a distortion, but with this, a little bit goes a long way. So you can already hear there, it's kind of getting a little crazy. Maybe 12 on the distortion. I think there. I'm going to do another video just covering synth drums and the AFX mode, but for this, creating 5 sounds, I think we're good to go. Nice kick, not utilizing any of the oscillators, just the resonance into the filter. Next up, we are going to create a pad sound. Now, some of you might be thinking, with a mono synth, you can't really play chords, so it's just going to be a lead. But we can cheat a little bit. Because we have a pretty good size on the course, we can actually tune 2 oscillators to make a bit of a like 2-chord pad for that, if you want to call it that. Another thing we can do that's kind of cool is we can then attach the tuning to the mod wheel. So then the mod wheel, as we change it, will give us different tuning options. So let's get into it. Obviously, we've chosen just a default patch. We're going to go oscillator 1 is going to be 4 feet, and it's going to be that was oscillator 2. So oscillator 1, we're going to go to 4 feet and a sawtooth. Oscillator 2 is going to be 4 feet again and a sawtooth. And then we're going to also do the same trick that we did on the bass, is we're going to use the fine to kind of give us a little bit more thickness. So we want to just turn that up here. There we go, we got 14, just a little bit. So if I go back to normal, that's in sync, and then There we go, a little bit of detune. Then we've got the sub oscillator is a -1, and then for the mixer, we're going to go, oscillator 1 is going to be 100, oscillator 2 is going to be 100, and the sub is going to be about 25%. So there we go. From there, we've got our sound, and we're going to come across to the filters. Then we're going to go mod envelope is going to be at 100. Let's bring the resonance all the way down again. And let's reset this LFO2. And let's bring down the filter. So filter is going to be down to 0. We're going to go amp and mod envelope again. And there we go. So we're going to go attack is going to be about 75%. Decay is going to be about 50. Sustain is going to be full. And then release is going to be about 50. So now so we got a kind of a slow attack lead at the moment. Next up, we're going to use the mod wheel to tune the oscillator to coarse. So what we can do is, we can see here we have these options across here. We're going to go oscillator to pitch. So we'll go function, and then got it here. And then from here, let's turn these down. We want this C to be a G. So let's go function, pitch. There we go. And now we can just hit function again. And then let's turn these up again. We go 25% on that. We're full and full. Now if I increase this, and we also want to make sure that's set to 0. LFO1's also take that off. And that's good there. Let's just check that tuning one more time. It's a little bit out. So let's go back here, go function, oscillator to pitch. And we're gonna there we go. And let's go function. Put that little reverb on again. Gonna back away on the mod envelope depth a little bit. You can even add a little bit of glide in there. So there you go. There's a way that you can kind of get around not being able to play chords, but you can pitch the oscillators of the second oscillator or the first against the other oscillator to kind of give you a kind of a duophonic synth where being able to play two notes at one time. Lastly, we are going to take a look at a simple effect. So again, let's start with initializing the patch. And for this one, we're going to use a couple more of the extra functions that we have on here. So let's get into it. We'll create the patch and then we can add those other functions and you can see how they operate to give you a little bit more. So we started with the bass doing something super simple. Then we started to add a little bit more functionality, and then the last patch we added some of the functions, and this one we're going to add even more. So we're going to start off with oscillator 1. It's going to be set to 8, and it's going to be a sine wave. We can take that effect off for now. And from there, we're going to go to all the way to full, and then we're going to look at the filter section. So for the filter, we are going to pull down the cutoff frequency down to 0. We've got nothing going on there. We're going to increase the mod envelope to full, and then we're then going to just create a super simple so we can play the synths. So again, 50% on the attack and the release and full on the sustain. The main part of this sound is going to come from LFO1 and the LFO1 depth to the pitch. So from here, we're going to go LFO1 depth pitch, and it's set to 1. So now we have this craziness. So, and you can hear every time it's just picking up where it was last time in that LFO, but we don't want it to do that. I want it to start at the bottom each time and go up. It's kind of a way that we can get the ramp up because we have the sawtooth, but we have a triangle. So we're going to kind of fudge it a little bit. So we're going to go to, we got the LFO1 key sync. We're going to go function, LFO1 key sync, and we're going to turn that to on. Click function again. So you can hear it starts at that bottom point every time. So now when we play the sound, get that super easy riser up. But I want to add a little bit more in there. So I want to add this LFO2, which is going to be a sawtooth, onto the envelope here. So this is going to play through the cutoff here. So, and we can kind of play along with it. We can even decrease that speed there. But it's a little bit bitey, so I want to turn on the slew. And what the slew does is it kind of rounds off that attack on the sawtooth. So go function, LFO2, and then we're going to increase this a ton. Just increase it so it's almost just rounded off. And we'll push function again. Cool. So from here we can add some more little effects. So let's look at some overdrive and then a little bit of distortion and some resonance as well. all that, so the release just doesn't tail out like that. So there you go. You can see how we can utilize some of the functions. We can utilize both the LFOs, and we've made 5 patches, some utilizing the oscillators, some just using the filters. And at the end of the day, if you have a base station, hopefully this has shown you a little bit more of how stuff's routed. Or if you don't have the base station and you wanted to hear a little demo, hopefully this kind of ticks that box for you. And at the end of the day, hopefully this has inspired you to create some music. And until next time, see you later.